Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I get to learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And I have a very special guest, filmmaker Maya Ahmed. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we're going to be discussing your new short film, Good Luck to Me, and also learning a little bit more about you. But before we jump in, Maya, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience.
Yes, definitely. I am a director and producer, and soon to be writer as well. Currently working on finally writing down my own scripts for some films that may come way into the future. But I am very much at the beginning of my journey when it comes to directing and producing. And it's been incredible so far. Um, I've gotten a lot of opportunities that I never thought I'd get so early on in the game and met so many incredible people. Um, and I was in Columbus. I was living in Columbus for 5 years, Columbus, Ohio, which is where I met the film crew that I was part of, Allison Films. And a year ago, I moved to Indianapolis. So I'll start getting a little bit more into that community soon.
Awesome. And I know I got a chance to check out your new film, Good Luck to Me, starring Timothy J. Cox and Heather Bayless. But I guess if you want to introduce the audience a little bit to what's Good Luck to Me about.
Yes, absolutely. So, as you said, Good Luck to Me stars Timothy Cox and Heather Bales, who are also the writers of the
Mm,
film as well as producers of the film. So they had a lot of hands in
mm,
everything, which is perfect. They're both extremely good at what they do. The film itself is a short film. It's a drama, and I'm just going to be as to the point and
yeah.
like general as possible because I definitely don't want to give away any spoilers. But it focuses on a moment in time for the two main characters who are sitting and kind of having a conversation in more ways than one.
Mm,
Um, this includes body language, like how they are acting with each other, their behaviors, as well as the actual literal words that they're saying. Um, so audiences kind of get to explore this part of whatever's happening with these two just for a little while without in time or where they're going afterwards. Um, so there are a lot of unanswered questions in this film, and that is done intentionally because we want audience members to be their own questions and kind of come to conclusions on their own based on what they see. And we're kind of just leaving it open for them to do their own analyses and just have fun with it in that way and start some discussions. Um, in addition to what the characters are saying, I also wanted to take this opportunity to play with silences a lot, and kind of just increase feelings that people don't normally like to sit with, like awkwardness, um, being uncomfortable, just kind of those negative feelings that make you feel restless and antsy. That's what we were going for. So if something just seems really awkward to you, it's on purpose.
mm.
So not only do we tell the story using dialogue and also silence, but also we wanted to tell the story as visually as possible. So you'll see like anyone who's appearing on screen, as well as the location where this was shot, it all aids in telling the story. Um, so we wanted these two characters to be dressed in neutral colors, black and brown and like boring, quote unquote, boring drab colors, while they are surrounded by vibrancy and glamour and activity. So all of these kind of come together to add multiple layers to the story.
Awesome. And having got a chance to check out the film, you definitely feel those awkward moments for sure. And I feel like anybody who's been in any kind of, especially long-term relationship, it's like you're probably going to have some of those awkward moments. And one of the things I thought was so interesting was you're never quite sure exactly where in this relationship this situation is happening. And that's one of the interesting things about the film. But Mike, can you tell a little bit about how you got involved in the film and got involved with Heather and Tim making this?
Yes, well, it was definitely my first time working with Heather. Um, and she is from Cleveland and I was living in Columbus, so we hadn't really had a chance. We hadn't bumped into each other yet, but we had definitely heard about each other. And it was awesome working with her. Tim, I had worked with a lot on lots of other films. There was another film of his that he wrote and produced that I directed as well, and that was actually my first time directing a short film. Um, so that one was called Hard Truths. Uh, Tim and I have known each other for a while and we've worked extensively together. So after he and Heather finished writing Good Luck to Me and that was all done, um, he approached me on the set of another film that we were working on together and asked me if I wanted to direct it. And I read the script right then and there and I was in.
Also, I guess speaking to that point, and what about this script from Heather and Tim really attracted you to this project?
Um, I I liked the idea of just kind of going back to the awkwardness and the restlessness
Mhm.
of, between the characters. It seemed like a little bit of a creative opportunity for me that I have not yet gotten to explore. So um, I was just excited about the possibility of working with that, as well as, of course, the crew and the people, just,
Mhm.
the people that you work with make or break everything, as you know.
Absolutely. That's something that I definitely think about a lot in my day job, building those kinds of relationships, but also very interesting getting a chance to see a project where it's like it looks like I can have some, you know, you're able to find some choices in terms of how you're going to present a story and be able to explore that. And certainly I felt like this one was a very interesting and engaging film because for however long the film is, it's like you don't have a whole lot of screen time, but I feel like the film's able to hook you from the start, just from like what's going on with these two people at this dinner and just building that intrigue throughout it. And obviously, Tim and Heather wrote the screenplay, but you behind the camera and directing this, what do you feel like you were able to bring or explore from like your own perspective and experiences with this film?
That is a very good question. Well, I guess without giving too much away, I whatever the characters are going through, I have never gone through anything like that.
Mhm.
So I couldn't relate at all. But sometimes you just like slip into like daydreams, like what if this
Mhm.
happens? What if that happens? But anything in your life. So it was kind of an opportunity for that. Like what I wonder what this type of a relationship looks like, or I wonder what this outcome can look like and what can lead people to these decisions and behaviors.
Well, and
Did,
I
did
think
that
that,
answer your question?
yeah, I think that's a very interesting and very natural experience, especially with relationships, because it's like, especially if you're somebody who you care about a lot of the times it shouldn't feel like work, but relationships still are. You got a lot of put in effort, and sometimes you get stuck in that situation thinking about like what if this happens, or what if something bad happens, or you're going to have uncomfortable and awkward moments. Maybe not exactly like this couple does in this particular story, but I think we're all going to have those awkward dinners where we're sitting across from somebody and not necessarily knowing exactly how we got here or how this is going to process. And I feel like Good Luck to me really hits on that kind of element, even us just being humans interacting with each other. We've all been in uncomfortable situations and having those kinds of conversations in our own head about how did we get here? And I do appreciate that this film is able to explore that and put you right in it. And obviously, a lot of kudos go to Tim and Heather as well because they make it feel so authentic and real. It's like you feel like you're at the table next to them and you're just like watching over this really uncomfortable dinner that's going on between these two characters. So I appreciate what you brought to the table as well and being able to create that kind of environment to connect with the film.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And I absolutely was not alone in this. Our cinematographer, Thomas
Mhm.
Angeletti, who's, also the founder of Allison Films, he was the magic behind the lens. And
Mhm.
we had a killer crew for lighting and assistant directing and sound. And everyone did their part extremely well.
Mhm.
And honestly, I didn't really have to do much directing because everybody was so skilled and talented. There wasn't really much left for me to do.
Well, and you very being very modest, obviously, about the experience, but it does pay to have a lot of great people on your team being able to pull a project together. And it sounds like this was a really awesome experience being able to create this film. But I guess I always like to, well, the last question I would like to ask filmmakers about their films is so you're going to be trying to pitch this to somebody. What's the one main reason why you feel like people should check out Good Luck to Me?
I would say because it allows you to sit with the characters
Mhm.
in a moment that is not pleasant and is filled with a little bit of uncertainty in some ways. I mean, I would say people are just so used to, um, like they gravitate towards positivity, which, of course, is so natural. And they look for that and they yearn for that. But then that's not really realistic to life, right? Like
Mm.
we should be able to just kind of sit and process these more negative. I don't know what the proper like term is, but I'm just going to go with negative. These negative moments, and just like really process them and analyze it, and just kind of add that to your own experience. So it allows you to sit with the characters in a different way, and in a more vulnerable way. I feel like. Um, and it directly invites audience participation because it forces that it doesn't give them like, well, there's one clear cut answer at the end, but
Mm.
there are a whole bunch of other non answers that we kind of just leave out there for people to just have conversations about or think about later. So that's
Absolutely. And is it you feel like you're literally sitting with them in this restaurant through this experience. And I appreciate that perspective that you brought to this in terms of how you're describing it, because yes, we do gravitate towards those happy moments and those big moments in a relationship and even a happy relationship. You're going to have some of those times like sitting at a restaurant where it's like, might not be the most memorable experience. A lot of it's just sitting in that moment. And for this in particular, so many films lean into making it feel like you're watching a movie and having these big experiences. What this film feels like is very, very human and very authentic in there's a lot of silent awkwardness and how the film's able to capture the little voices and acting from the stars being able to bring these two characters to life. And yes, up until the very end, where you really get an idea of what actually was going on, there's just so much mystery and intrigue to being like, what is this dinner? Where are they in this relationship? And I think that's extremely interesting. But so, Maya, where can people check out the film?
Well, we actually have not decided on that yet, but we will definitely, be letting everyone know once we do. We're currently in the festival circuit, so once that has, come down a little bit, then we're gonna premiere it somewhere.
Mhm.
But the best way to stay updated with that is to follow our social media pages. There's our personal ones on Instagram, and there is the one for Allison Films as well, which we all
Mhm.
follow. So if you follow that, you should be able to find the rest of us too.
Awesome. And I'll definitely put all those links in the bio of this episode, in the description of this episode, so people can follow along, keep an eye out, maybe check it at a festival if get an opportunity to do that. And obviously, I think this is a really special and intriguing little film. So hopefully it finds its audience and people check it out when they get the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for helping us to push our film forward and make it more accessible for people too.
Absolutely. And I feel like I've definitely dove in to short films a lot more over the past couple of years. And for a little while, I was doing a article series at sifpop.com monthly, just highlighting some short films because I feel like a lot of people just write them off because it's like, well, is this going to tell like a whole story? And but like there's so many interesting things that you can do with a short film. And I've certainly watched a lot of them. I've certainly watched a lot of them with Tim in them. And he's very, very talented and brings a lot to his roles. And this film definitely has a lot going for it. So hopefully, people check it out when they get an opportunity to do so. Now, Maya, are you ready to for us to learn a little bit more about you as a movie lover?
Uh, sure, yes, absolutely.
Well, I know this isn't exactly everybody's favorite question because sometimes it could be like, how am I supposed to answer this? Some people have an exact answer, but we're going to do it anyway. But Maya, what's your favorite film?
The Lord of the Rings trilogy, all of them, all of them.
Awesome.
You can't ask me to separate them.
Well, that is
Yeah,
something.
I also have to give a little bit of a disclaimer. I am not a movie or film buff.
Mhm.
I there are so many movies that so many people would be shocked to find out that I haven't seen. So I'm just putting that out there. I don't have too much knowledge.
Hey, the important thing is you know what? It's funny because I watched so many movies at this point, and people still have moments where they're like, I can't believe you haven't seen this. I'm like, I hope you realize like thousands of movies come out every single year. It's literally impossible to watch them all. But
Yes.
hey, this is about learning about you. There's no judgment here. And I have to say, I have that in common with you, as Lord of the Rings has been my favorite film since I saw that when I was 10 years old when the Fellowship of the Ring came out. So, and I also, they're one movie, they're just one long movie together.
There you
So
go.
they're just special in terms of like, they literally do everything great. They have a little bit of everything, and it's so
Mhm.
miraculous and so incredibly put together. So I agree. So that's one thing in common here. So, but Maya, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
Earliest memory was to see Hercules, the
Nice.
animated Disney movie. So that tells you exactly how old I am.
That movie is so much fun, and I still love watching it now. So,
Yes, yes, and it's kind of like I kind of can't believe that I got to see it in theaters when it came out. It's so iconic.
I'm trying to think, like, what was the first actual Disney movie that I watched in theaters? Because I certainly had them all in VHS and watched them all the
Yes,
time.
yes, 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 same.
And still anxiously awaiting to see what Disney does with that, seeing as they certainly have a plan to remake it. And I'm like, we'll see.
We'll
Um,
see.
there's so many great songs throughout the whole entire the um just the muses and their whole sequences and everything. So many great songs from that for sure.
Oh, yes.
Now, Maya, do you have a particular favorite genre of movies?
Well, it used to be horror.
Okay,
And then after I had a child, I became a lot more sensitive somehow. So it was
fair.
supernatural, paranormal stuff. And while I still love it, I just have to be in the
Mhm.
mood to watch them. But right now, I would say like apocalypse films, like
Okay.
survivor thriller films. There's just something about the anxiety that, is not like real to me that
Mhm.
I can just kind of like be in and just seeing people like, I mean, obviously it's a film, but seeing people just having to survive with whatever they have and rolling with the punches, which is so opposite from how I am in real life.
Mhm.
It's just very interesting to see.
So it's very interesting you talking about having a child and then being a little bit more sensitive to horror films. I feel like the horrors feel a lot more uncomfortable when you think about it's like how many creepy children or crazy things that happen to children in horror movies and stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes.
Um, I've always been a big baby and I watch a lot more horror movies now than I did when I was younger, but I was thinking about trying to catch one later tonight after this recording. I'm like, I think that's a little too late for me because then I'm not going to sleep because I'm going to be scared. But
Hmm.
I do appreciate some good like apocalyptic kind of thriller and survival films. And it's just like, something that feels a little bit more apocalyptic than, the craziness of the world around us right now.
That's
So
right. That's right. That's right.
like we haven't quite reached the everybody is wearing leather and flames everywhere kind of post-apocalyptic. So at least there's still some hope here.
Yes,
So
then we'll hold on to that.
now, Maya, do you have a particular favorite filmmaker?
I mean, I got to go back to Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson.
Hmm.
It's just, I mean, that might just seem like an easy answer, especially because there are tons of directors that I haven't really studied as much as I aim to yet.
Hmm.
But Peter Jackson, aside from the fact that I would shave my head to be able to spend one day with him to ask all the questions that I have and learn as much as I can from him, just every time I watch the Lord of the Rings films, um, or honestly, like any of his films, I notice something different each time. And just the attention to detail is absolutely crazy. And it's something that I aspire towards. And it's obvious that whatever story he's telling, he has a love for it and
Hmm.
he nurtures it and gives it so much care before he's ready to release it. Plus, the fact, I mean, obviously, I don't know him as a person. We never truly know what a person is like unless you meet them and spend time with them. But just the stories that you hear about him, like how he, like when filming Lord of the Rings in New Zealand, how he was respectful. I mean, he lives there, but he was respectful to the natives and
Yep.
um, his cast and crew. He made sure everybody was taken care of, and he just seemed like just incredible at his job.
He definitely gives off the vibe that he's like a very sweet, calming presence on the movie set, which isn't true about all filmmakers in terms of how they engage with their cast and crew and stuff like that. And I don't spend a whole lot of time looking at special features on a lot of my physical media I have back here trying to watch more movies, but I remember watching a lot of those documentaries behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings when I was growing up and just the insane amount of effort to pull that together and just like you get a whole entire cast and crew out to New Zealand for like a year plus and then try to make 9 hours and 20 minutes worth of movie and just going into that. And he has such an interesting career because, like, early on, I've seen some of his wild horror films that he made when he was younger, like Brain Dead and stuff like that. And it's no wonder that he had those like sneaky horror movie elements that popped up in Lord of the Rings. So I'm like, he has a knack for this. And
Mm,
then, he does documentaries about World War I soldiers and then the Beatles and stuff like that. It's interesting to see the just the variety of interest that he has as a filmmaker. And I remember seeing his King Kong in theaters too, and just being absolutely blown away by just how realistic so many of those, like, you're watching a giant ape fighting dinosaurs, but it feels like you're there. And that's something really special for sure.
I agree. Hmm.
Now, thinking about in front of the camera, do you have any particular favorite actors or actresses?
This is similar to the previous question where I
Mhm.
haven't studied as many people as I want to and I aim to. But for now, I'm gonna go with Johnny Depp. I mean, yes, he's an
Yeah.
A-list celebrity and everyone has a crush on him, but I'm talking about him as an actor.
Mhm.
Um, just the versatility that he has is crazy to me, and
Yeah.
just that level of camouflage, like him become like actually becoming the characters that he's bringing to life. He's literally bringing them to life, and
Mhm.
I just really admire that. Plus, he's from Kentucky, and I'm from Kentucky.
Well, there you go. Neighbors. But it's my brother's a humongous Johnny Depp fan and Tim Burton fan, and I spent a lot of time growing up watching Edward Scissorhands and watching so many of their collaborations, Sleepy Hollow, and Johnny Depp does because, like, he started on like 21 Jump Street where he's just heartthrob TV actor and stuff like that, but like he's weird and he'll do all kinds of different things as an actor to really get into his role, going from like what's eating Gilbert Grape to the Mad Hatter, and also creating one of the most iconic movie characters at this point in Jack Sparrow that, like, nobody, like, that's Johnny Depp. Like, Jack Sparrow, nobody else would have brought that to the role, to the point like he got nominated for an Oscar for playing Jack Sparrow in that first Pirates movie, which I don't think people really know or think about that often, but like that's how special that performance was. And 5 movies in seem like a little bit tired of it, but it's still, he has such an interesting range in terms of his performances and the different kinds of roles that he'll just throw himself into, and absolutely no regard for like his appearance or anything, even just like something weird like Tusk, him throwing on a giant fake nose and beard and everything and just looking like a really creepy private investigator and stuff like that. And that's the fun of it too, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, you asking me these questions about who my favorite director is, who my favorite actor or actress is, it's really, I mean, I don't know, like, if to this point, like, I have like specific answers to that aside from what I just gave to you, but
Yeah.
I I found that I gravitate more towards like the people who you can tell who's in this industry for like fame and
Mhm.
for money and looking pretty or looking attractive or just being wanted by people. You can tell who's in it for that and who's in it for, to feed like their artist's soul and to
Mhm.
actually connect with an audience in a different way and to send messages and who's actually in it for the right reasons.
Well, and you could definitely tell that Johnny Depp's in it for the craft because just everything that throws into it. I think one of my favorite random videos to watch is behind the scenes of Rango, of him acting out all of his role as this lizard, this
Uh-huh.
chameleon, and just completely committing to it. Like, did he have to do that? He could have just showed up to a booth and did his lines and everything, but no, they made like whole mock sets for the actors to just like get into it. And it's just such a fun time. And you can tell he's having a blast, which makes it even more fun for the audience to be able to watch it for sure.
For sure. Oh, I gotta watch that. Yeah. Can
Now, Maya, what's a film that you feel like you could just watch every day?
I go with a bunch of films? Pixar films. I can watch
Hmm.
Pixar films every day for the rest of my life and be happy.
Get some good laughs, get some good cries in, just hitting all the emotions for sure.
Definitely.
Do you have a particular favorite Pixar?
No, that's very hard to choose.
That
I
is a
think
hard question.
it
Asking the
really
hard
is.
questions tonight.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. It's great. What came to mind immediately was Inside Out
Okay.
because I haven't really seen a kids movie do what that film did, which is
Hmm.
explaining emotions in such an emotionally intelligent way. Um, and it made me as an adult just think. Like I think about that movie all the time, and it's such a great tool to explain and make sense of things that can be going on in people's minds.
Absolutely. It's such a creative film and so inspired. And I actually have an interesting story about when I saw it was my now wife and I were seeing it, and there was a group of teenage girls who probably just wrapped up some kind of like field hockey practice and all showed up together and they were talking the whole entire movie. And then the Bing Bong thing happened and all of them were bawling their eyes out. And it's just like, well, they finally stopped talking.
Yeah. Sit
It
there
has
and
that
cry with
effect
the
on
rest of
you.
us. Yeah.
I've always been a humongous fan of Monsters Inc. I love Sully. Um, I'm I'm very much Sully. I have a lot in common with that character in terms of vibes and stuff like that. And then Mike Wazowski's so much fun, and Boo's the most adorable little girl in like the history of movies.
Yes.
Boo's
Yes.
up there for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And Mr. Waternoose running across like a wall chasing after them was absolutely terrifying and still
Mm,
scares me.
yes.
So there you go. Now, Maya, what's a film that can you connect closely with because it relates to another interest of yours?
Mm, so I recently watched Interstellar for the first time,
Okay.
and that movie also owns my soul along with the rest of the
Mhm.
world. And I'm fascinated with space. That sounds
Okay.
very like generic, but whatever. So I really love the way that they explored the concept of time,
Mhm.
and they actually showed, you know, like being on another planet and what, you know, it went to places that I wish other space themed films would have gone to. Um, and I like all the concepts that were there. So it's definitely a film that I could watch more than once.
That is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And I remember seeing that. I was in grad school at the time and I took a day off of one of my part-time jobs, so I could go see that for my birthday.
Yes.
Um, and it was so worth it. And just the immense amount of details, like to your point, that scene on that water planet with those giant quote unquote mountains
Yes.
that were tidal waves and is absolutely terrifying. If you listen to the score, if I'm not mistaken, every hit that happens in the score is like months going by.
Yeah.
And that is just like the amount of thought and detail Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan put into this. I'm like, that
Yes.
is terrifying. And you just hear it like ticking away, and you're just like, that's a whole month of your life just
Yeah.
disappearing. And God, that scene of him coming back and hopping on and watching the videos of his children, mostly Murph, because obviously he didn't care about his son that much. Did
Yes.
not care about Tom nearly as much as he cared about Murph.
Yeah.
Like, that's devastating.
Yeah.
And just like, Matthew McConaughey just breaking down crying. I'm like, I didn't show up to this Christopher Nolan movie to cry today.
Yeah.
So much emotion, but no, it's such a crazy film, and the amount of detail and research he went into to try to make the black holes and the wormholes and like all of those things feel as realistic and real as possible to what we comprehend of what things in space look like. Those
Hmm.
sequences are amazing, and
Hmm.
just that man's wild. I can't wait for the Odyssey. He's gonna have like actual monsters and stuff like that because why not? He's
Yeah.
gonna find a way, make it all
Yes.
practical.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a movie character that you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
I don't have a movie character, but I do
Okay.
have like a movie character type. Um,
Okay.
so those types of characters that are kind of just going through their everyday lives and, just doing what they do. And then they make a decision or a series of decisions that completely throw them onto a journey that they never imagined for themselves. And it's just so much bigger than them. Um, I really want to I don't want to sound arrogant about this at all because I don't mean it in that way at all, but I really aim to do like get myself on that kind of a journey with my filmmaking. Um the purpose of like what I want all my films to be, I want to be able to communicate and just like really talk, quote unquote, talk with my audience members through my films.
Mhm.
And there's just so much to say using films.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can have a tremendous impact in that way to help to nudge the world in the direction that you want to see it go. One of my mantras is like I want to leave the world a better so I want to leave the world a better place than it was when I entered it. And I
Mhm.
feel like filmmaking is a way for me to do that. That could be very impactful because most people love films and it really gets into their feels. So that's my answer to that.
Well, I send all the good vibes that you find that moment where that life sends you in that direction where you're going to find that path to be able to do that. And film's special in that way that I love art in general. I love music and like I love looking at a good, beautiful painting and stuff like that. But there's something special about how film is fully immersive in so many different dimensions and ways that like I watch all kinds of different films and like I'll dig up things. I've watched a whole bunch of films from like the dawn of cinema and just thinking about somebody like a Georges Méliès who made some little film about a bunch of scientists going up onto the moon and how that has just rippled through over 100 years of civilization and made such an impact on people that people still think about it. And to the point that Martin Scorsese made a movie and had George Méliès in it and just pull it all full circle and everything. So there's something special about the impact that movies can make on us. So, and I highly respect and appreciate those who go out and actually make films and are able to make those kinds of connections. Now, Maya, what's a film that you love that you feel like would surprise people?
Um, have you ever watched The Harder They Fall?
The Is that the Western from Netflix? Yeah,
That
it's
one.
great.
That one.
Okay.
Yes, it's one of my favorites and I just have this dream of owning it. I can't find a copy anywhere, but I just want to own it.
Netflix.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I want to own, I just have this dream of owning it. And then like having more kids and having a bunch of grandkids and then them just like going through my stuff and just finding this random movie that is brutal and gruesome and full of cursing, which I usually never do. And
Mhm.
it's just this film is like completely like just I never would have pegged myself like liking this type of a film, but I'm absolutely in love with it. And it
It's
has
a great
surprised most
film.
people. Yeah.
And there's so many great actors in it. Just bringing so much to the table. I'm a big fan of Westerns and don't usually find a whole lot of people, probably under the age of 50, that loves Westerns as much as I do. Because,
Uh-huh.
it's Westerns really hasn't been like a big touchstone of film since the early 90s. And like, sure, we do still get Westerns like The Harder They Fall that trickle in, and some of them really make a great impact. And that one is a really special film. And I certainly would also own that if Netflix sold more of their films on physical media, but whatever. Unless it winds up getting a Criterion release, basically you're just like, nope, sorry. Or you get a bootleg somewhere. I didn't
Yeah.
say that.
It's-
Uh,
I didn't hear that.
Neither
Yeah,
did the audience listen to the videos.
that's right. And like I am not really into westerns. I'm one of those people
Mhm.
who's not into westerns. And I probably would not have watched this film if my husband didn't put it on and make me watch it with him. And I'm so glad he
Well,
did.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't have to get my wife to sit down and watch Westerns. Honestly, she's the one that showed me a lot of classic Westerns. That's one thing that we have in common.
Nice.
I think I watched Unforgiven and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for the first time because of my wife.
Wow.
So she grew up watching a lot of Westerns and stuff like that with her grandpa. So
Oh.
my my grandpa was more into watching war movies, which is why I
Mm.
watched a lot of war movies growing up as a kid. Now, my last question for you, Maya, is what do you love most about movies?
I like no, I love that it gives me insight into the minds of others.
Mm,
Um, and I'm very much a book lover, and I feel
okay.
the very same way about that. It's like you're a kind of mind reading because you're
Mhm.
getting a glimpse into something that someone came up with. And I feel like films are very much that way, just in a different format. And I like being connected to people in that way. And I like having my perspectives challenged. And
Mm.
I like adding to that as well.
It's very interesting because one, I was a avid reader before I became a lover of movies. And it's a great thing once like I watch a movie and like this is based off of a book and then I want to go read the book. I'm actually listening to The Cabin at the End of the World right now. Because Knock at the Cabin grabbed my attention so much. But thinking about how you can just get inside somebody's head and just see their creative process, their view of the world, the things that matter to them. Sometimes you think this person needs therapy. And you're just like, what's going on in their head?
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, a lot of horror directors and just like, nope, this is their therapy. They're just pumping that all out at us.
Yes.
Um, but and to your point of being challenged, it's like there's some great films that I watch that challenge my world perspective and challenge like why am I getting defensive about this movie? And it's like honestly, I probably should be getting defensive about this movie.
Mhm.
And being able to be challenged like that, I I know a lot of people that watch movies for entertainment and they probably don't want to be challenged like that. But if you are the kind of person that appreciates the art form and what films can do, sometimes it's a really special experience being like, I just watched this movie and it honestly made me change my outlook on things. I know one film that really challenged me for sure was Do the Right Thing. I was just writing a article about one of Spike Lee's films with Highest to Lowest coming out, and being an Italian American from New Jersey, when some of the antagonistic forces in the movie are a group of Italian guys from New York, it's just like, yeah, you're put in a situation where it's just like they weren't right either. No, but that's the key thing about do the right thing. Everybody did the wrong thing. That's how we got in the situation in the first place. But being able to watch films like that is really special and being able to be challenged that way. But I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me tonight. How I always like to wrap up my show is have my guest ask me a question. So, through our conversation, what would you like to ask the Wasteland reviewer?
Okay, well, you asked me if there was a movie character that I relate to on a personal level, and that was the question that I had the hardest time answering. So I want
A
to
lot
know.
of people do, honestly.
No, I loved it too, though. Like that, it really made me think, and I'm going to be thinking actually about a lot of your questions for a long time. But yes, I pose that question to you.
So it's I've done episodes where I've answered these questions too, and my immediate answer was Charlie from Perks of Being a Wallflower because I don't know if you've seen the film or read the book, but just that experience of being a very quiet kid in high school, and it was my college experience, not my high school experience, like in Charlie's story, that really reshaped who I am and helped me grow. But that's somebody that always really connected with. And I would have loved to have a teacher who would give me side reading assignments like, here's this book that I think you would really like. And also be really cool if it was Paul Rudd who was my English teacher. Just throwing that out there. But what's interesting is, and this came up earlier, um, I think one of the reasons why Monsters Inc. hits so deeply to me is I do really connect with Sully as a character. And, you know, I'm a pretty big guy. And, sometimes I feel like I could be a little bit intimidating, but I'm not really that kind of way. It takes like 2 seconds to actually start talking to me to realize I'm not an intimidating person. But I distinctly remember because I work at a college full time, I run a tutoring center. And I've supervised probably over 1,000 student workers in my time working at college. And I distinctly remember one of my student workers who I had a really great relationship with. He took a page out of a Pixar coloring book, and it was Sully and one of the doors. And she wrote me a little note talking about how I was like Sully leading everybody like boo to their doors and like on into this place. I'm like, this is gonna make me cry. And something about that just really touched me. And it's a special experience being able to like see yourself in characters. And I appreciate that you pick like a type of character because you're never gonna find a character that's exactly like you. It's you find elements of yourself in characters, and sometimes seeing elements of yourself in some characters freaks you out a little bit and others inspire you and connect with. But those are two answers. Charlie's usually the one that I go with because when I went away to college, I said like 10 sentences a day. So it was definitely, and now I don't shut up. But getting that experience and growing, and that movie really blew me away. I'm like, why aren't more people talking about this when I
Mm-hmm.
saw that film? So for those who haven't seen Perks of Being a Wallflower or haven't read the book, I would recommend both of them.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, the writer of the book directed the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
getting that kind of experience. But thank you for your question. And more importantly, thank you so much for your time. I hope people go check out Good Luck to Me when it's available to them. Maybe have a nice experience again to check it out at a festival. But Maya, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you as well. This was absolutely a pleasure.
I'm glad to hear. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.